Hey everyone, I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Davi.
And we're just two Asian women having candid conversations about whatever the hell we want to talk about with an intersectional flair.
That being said, today we're going to talk about the 40-hour work week being a scam.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Just Two Asian Women podcast. If you're new here, my name is Carolyn. I'm Laotian American, San Diego, Gemini, and I'm one half of Just Two Asian Women.
Hey everybody, my name's Davi. I'm Cambodian American, and we're hella excited today because we have a new guest. It's my childhood friend, Athena. Yay!
Yay!
Hi, Athena.
How are you doing, Athena?
How you doing?
Good. How are you? Okay,
Good.
so I just wanted to introduce a little bit about myself. Yeah, my name is Athena, and I too am an Asian woman. So technically a third Asian woman.
Just three Asian women.
Yes.
Yes.
So what made you want to talk about the 40-hour work week?
Oh, yeah. So I brought up the 40-hour work week just because it's such a prevalent part of many people's lives. And I think it would be nice to discuss and potentially challenge this structural norm in today's society. So I just want to talk about maybe, the history of it and the current situation we're at now, and hopefully going forward, what are possible solutions on approaching this work-life balance.
Yes, and I'd love to jump into, just to give some context to our viewers or listeners. We're all three Asian women, but we're all also young professionals here in America. And we know a lot of our listeners are as well, based on like statistics and whatnot. And, you do your time in college, you get your degree, and then you get what you always want, which is a full-time job. But then you find out that working 40 hours kind of sucks. Like, that's actually a lot of hours to work when you actually get to it.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how we even got to the 40-hour work week. And then Athena, feel free to jump in whenever. Carolyn, you too. So with the Industrial Revolution, people were decided, oh my God, these machines are great. Wouldn't it be great too if we had hella people working for us, even children, for 70, 100 hours a week? So to put it very simply, and then people realized the working conditions were heinous. There were photographers who took pictures and published it into newspapers, and people were shocked that they saw children working, people getting injured, awful working conditions, and they organized and created labor unions. So they basically won several things that we have today. So for example, we have holidays, benefits, the 40-hour work week, Saturday and Sundays off. So that's what the context of our 40-hour work week has come from, a super industrialized, polluted, capitalistic ventures to what we have today.
So you could say that it's very antiquated, because that happened all in literally the early 1900s. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I just realized that it wasn't until maybe about 60, 70 years ago where labor unions actually fought for better rights, better working conditions. So if you think about it, it's not really that long ago that we shifted from a very, very toxic work environment, And I definitely want to take time to appreciate that. A lot of work has gone into that, a lot of policy, a lot of protests went into that. But we're at the stage where we are at now, where I can appreciate what happened, but I also think we can even take it a step further from the 40-hour work week, which is, something that's going to be really exciting, because we live in a interesting time period right now where we can work remotely, and in 40 hours might not be the solution going forward.
Yeah, let's talk about what each of us do as a profession, because as a teacher, I have to work 40 hours considering I have to teach live, to students. And I was looking at the survey by Gallup in 2014, and they're saying that Americans worked 47 hours a week on average. They did a study in 2019 by Rescue Time. They analyzed 185 million hours of work time, and they're saying office workers only really spent 2 hours and 48 minutes on thoughtful work. So do you guys, since you guys work in an office setting, does that ring true to you? And to what extent?
Athena, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, luckily with my company, we my boss and I have a very set rule of, it's 40 hours and then we come at a hard stop. Like at
Oh,
my company, it's very like, at least for me in my position, she doesn't expect me to do any weekend work or any overtime unless it's really, really, really needed. So I do appreciate that because I think she really thinks about like the work-life balance in in that sense, where it's like, okay, if you do your 40 hours and you complete whatever you need to do, that's it. There's no need to do more. So for me, I don't have to work past that, which is great. But I know there's like studies done where uh, researchers would look at the productivity and correlate that with the hours worked, and past a certain like hours, like I think 45 to 50 hours, productivity still stays the same. It's not like there's an increase in productivity. So I think that's actually very interesting, from a research standpoint. But personally speaking, I'm just capped at 40 hours and that's it for me, luckily.
that's nice that your boss actually is really strict about that boundary.
Yeah, yeah. She mentioned it to me at the beginning of our interview. I offered, if I was very flexible on my working time, like if there needed to be weekend work, I can always volunteer. And she said, nope, nope, we don't do that here. Once you put in your 40 hours, you are good to go. So I did appreciate that because it was a boundary that she set right from the get-go.
Yeah, Carolyn, how's your work hours like? And do you feel like you work about 47 hours a week? And do you feel like you spend 3 hours like a day like on thoughtful work?
All right. So I also work in an office, and I feel like here's some tea for you that there's kind of like an issue of people overworking themselves because there's kind of like a culture of that in my work because there's a lot of delegation that needs to be done. And some people are like, let me just do it myself. And then they just have like a billion projects stacked up with them. So they're trying to combat that right now. That's mainly for the higher ups. I am like on the lowest rung of that place. So I just clock my 40 hours and I'm all like, all right, I'm done. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good weekend. At work, I don't work 47 hours and I do spend like a couple hours like fucking around trying to get my brain to start. And I hope that none of my coworkers listen to this. But but I would also say that on top of doing that work, I put in my 9 to 5, but then I would switch over to what you could call my 5 to 9, which is just my hobbies or my side gigs or side hustles. And like all that side hustle or side gig stuff is like purely brought onto myself because I choose to do it. But I want to do it, and a lot of work. I'm working 24/7 is basically what's going on.
Yeah. How long has that been going on? How many months?
2019.
Oh, okay, for sure. Is that when you started taking like your art more seriously or
Yes, actually, that was when I did that. And like working from home, it's been a journey to find out how I could be like the most productive. Because at the office, there was kind of like, I mean, it was still hard to work at the office, but there was more pressure to look like I'm doing something, which would lead me to actually doing something. But at home, I'm like totally free, and that is a double-edged sword. And I feel like everybody's journey to like finding the right work environment for yourself or work setting for yourself, it's not something that comes naturally, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think what a lot of people are realizing now, I saw this Instagram post some time ago. It said that rest is required, not a reward.
Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you would think that like it sounds like common sense to be like, oh, if I work more, then I get more done. But like Athena mentioned earlier, like your productivity caps after like 50 hours. And after working 50 hours, you've already worked a bunch of fucking hours. And at that
Mm-hmm.
point, You need to chill the fuck out, you know?
I like that because in the work culture that we have in the US, it's very much like work, 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 and then
Mhm.
rest is reward. But no, rest is like default. Like that's how we live. I guess what my questions for like Carolyn and Athena are, how do you guys separate work time to like, all right, I'm gonna just rest now? Answer that question. Like, how's it been working at home?
It's been fantastic. I identify as an introvert, so I don't need, all of the interaction with my coworkers, all of the busy talk and small chit chat. So I actually love delegating my own time. And
Mhm.
I think the thing with working at home or remotely is it's a time saver. You don't commute. I can do laundry at the same time. I can cook at the same time. All of the things that would normally take me an
Mm.
additional 2, 3 hours after I get home from work pre-pandemic are all things that I can do within the work hour and still get work done. So it's been a great experience. And I do think that's why I'm really internalizing it, because I know at one point my company is going to want to shift back to working at the office. But um, I'm thinking of, maybe if there could be a hybrid environment where some days I go to the office, some days I don't, that would be optimal. And I know a lot of people probably feel the same way based on an HR survey that we took last year.
Mm.
95% of my company preferred working at home. 95%
Wow.
is like basically almost the whole company.
Right. And
Yeah.
then I'm trying to like look into the future too. I'm like, and that at that point, companies would save a lot of money on like real estate and renting out their office space too,
Yeah.
and maybe they can just like rent a place like a few days a week, and then that's when people need to meet.
I agree. I think it even costs on, it's Mother Nature would agree with us because first of all, we
Mm-hmm.
cut on, there's less carbon emissions, less carbon footprint,
Mm-hmm.
there's less gasoline usage, there's less electricity usage, less paper printing usage. So I think it has an environmental impact. And this is a type of topic that I think can be approached in a holistic way. It's it's not just me. It's also bigger than just me because of the impact that it can have on the whole entire environment. So yeah, I love working remotely for those few, for personal and for obviously the side effect is also environmental reasons, but also I just love the flexibility of it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one thing I could have back, it would be time. That's for sure.
Oh, so now you got a taste of it, and like hopefully, when like you guys go back in person, if that's even an option, um, that your employer is going to be like, yeah, you guys can stay home. Because like if they compare the data and see that, you guys have been producing the same amount of like work, what
What's
what's the
yes,
point of going in? Um,
right.
I had a little taste of working from home because during the pandemic I've been subbing. However, the district doesn't allow substitute teachers to work from home for whatever reasons. So I was like, all right, but I came into contact with somebody who had COVID like symptoms. So at that
Mhm.
point, they're like, all right, you have to go home for like, you have to stay home, get a test, and then email us with your negative results or, whatever. So it was really nice working at home. I think the advantages for me at least was the time. I didn't have to commute. During lunch, I can actually walk Ponzu, our family dog. So I actually get exercise versus if I were in the classroom, I just stay on my computer and like look
Mhm.
at stuff or whatever. And then on top of that, I save a lot of money because I live with my folks. So like they cook and I just go to the kitchen like 5 feet away and then, make food. So that was like really, really cool. The disadvantages though were like I am the type of person I like seeing my coworkers and, chit-chatting with them. So I kind of missed that interaction. And then like it was easier for me because of like location. I could separate, all right, I only work from 9 a.m. to 3:40 p.m. And after that, when I come home, I don't bring work home. Hell no. That's a no
Mhm.
for me.
Well, don't you work in person again right now? Didn't they
Oh,
force you to
yes.
come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. The update. Yeah. After, I was tested negative, I had to go back to work, but it was a nice week. And
That's
I considered like being like, oh no, this test results are taking so long to come back.
So like the lab lost my test and I have to stay home for another month. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird how that happened.
Yeah. I broke my leg. I can't drive anymore. So
Yeah.
sorry. I have to work from home.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I also prefer working from home because it's fucking awesome. For like I have nothing new to add. Like it's awesome for all the reasons that you two mentioned. Going to be honest, like would I rather be at home or like would I rather be home and miserable or like miserable in public in the office? Like
Right?
I'd rather be at home. I want to be at home and do that. With COVID happening, like COVID all in all like fucking sucks. So let me just make that clear. And COVID it forced companies who was distrusting of their employees working from home, despite all the science that says that working from home actually boosted employee productivity
Ooh, I didn't know
and
that.
output and quality. It forced companies to implement that work from home strategy essentially. And then they find out that it like literally works to their surprise, even though again all the science says that it works because of every reason that Athena mentioned. Like you get to relax at home, you get to do what you want, no commute, and you get to focus your time however you deem is the most productive. So in that aspect, I think it's good. Like in my company, personally, specifically, they found that like during the entire time we've been like in COVID, work from home, blah blah blah, our like revenue has literally just been like increasing significantly.
Ooh, wow. Even during pandemic.
Yeah, and like there's like weekly call that like the higher ups have with us. And they're like every week they're all like, yeah, we've been doing perfectly fine. Like we have been getting more money. Like y'all are doing a good job. That's that. So do I think that work is going to change in the future on terms of like having to go to an office and stuff like that? I mean, for mine and Athena's jobs, yeah, probably. Like if you can work from home, they probably do want you to work from home.
You mentioned that the research shows that productivity actually increases. And like Athena said, 95% of her coworkers like, yes, we want to stay. Like we don't want to come back.
Yeah.
So I really hope they, employers really take a look at that and, trust their workers and trust the science. But even with the 40-hour work week, I feel like a lot of Americans have accepted it as like the standard. But people like Athena are like, hell no, there must be another way.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that topic up. So my boyfriend told me about the study that Microsoft in Japan was hosting among their employees, and the experiment was quite simple. It was to implement a 4-day work week, but still getting paid 5 days for the work. So imagine working 32 hours, but getting paid for 40 hours. And the correlation that they wanted to see was, what does the 4-day work week have to do with workers' productivity? And no surprise here, workers' productivity increased by 40%.
Wow.
Right? And there's a study on this, and there's an NPR article that discusses some of the results about this experiment that they did over the summer. And workers' productivity went up, electricity costs went down, I think by 23%. Paper waste or paper usage and printing went down. And overall, it was a very, very solid experiment. The sales revenues also went up. And that's what they use to measure productivity. And like Caroline mentioned, even working in a remote environment or working in an environment under 40 hours, it's no surprise that people can still deliver up to the standard 40-hour or even better. Right? Because like when you treat employees like actual people, or when you give them more time off to relax and to just do their own thing, it's no surprise that they come back to work more peaceful or harmonized.
I love
So
that for
yeah,
Japan.
that was a great example, and I'm so glad I found it because it was just so perfect for this for this week's topic.
That's so dope. I also want to interject. Like, Japan is known for their absurd, like crazy work weeks. Like
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it that sometimes what happens is the manager or supervisor of a company will stay late into the hours, like 8, 9, 10 p.m. And it's really taboo for for an employee to leave before their manager does. So a lot of employees end up staying past the time they're done just so they don't look bad in front of their supervisor. I was like, oh, but it's really cool to see Japan, Microsoft trying this out. And I really hope this does leads the way for their work culture to be better in Japan, but also around in the US too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
I
Microsoft is a US company. So,
Yeah, and I also found out a statistic as crazy as the work hours in Japan is,
mhm.
on average, American people work 137 hours more per year than,
Oh.
typical Japanese citizen, which is even crazier. And we don't even think about it like that, because there's just a whole entire work field and workforce out there, in maybe an office, but there's tech and then there's trucking and there's a bunch of work field out there that requires so much time past the 40
Mhm.
hour. So we are, as developed of a nation as we are and as wealthy of a nation as we are, we have um, some of the worst benefits for our employees in times of work-life balance, in times of vacation, in times of paid sick leave. So we are definitely on the bottom of the scale for that.
Yeah, I think in Europe you get like 5 weeks off for vacation.
Yes, yeah. They're really good with the maternity and they're also starting to
Mhm.
implement paternal leave as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, did you all see that the Prime Minister of New Zealand just approved maternity and paternity leave for parents who had a miscarriage?
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
I love
oh,
that.
it's so
Good.
sweet. 'Cause
See,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Miscarriages are really common.
they are really calm. Exactly. I think that's one of the reasons, many of the reasons why the prime minister did that. And also,
Mhm.
she's a woman, so she understands.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, because I was trying to imagine that. Like, yeah, after you're looking forward to having a baby and then, they passed away, that's like a reason to grieve. And like, people need time to grieve. Like, how you know, pop in back into the office like nothing happened, you know?
Yeah, after your baby dies,
Yeah.
like go take a couple months off. You need
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh,
In America, the vacation time is like 2 months average. I mean, I'm sorry, 2 months. I wish.
2 weeks.
2 weeks average.
I was like, wait, where?
which
Which
company?
company?
I
Yeah,
want to go there.
it's 2 weeks. And let me tell y'all, if y'all have ever vacationed anywhere, you need 2 weeks just for one motherfucking city,
Yeah. For
Like, oh
real.
my God. What are you gonna do with only 2 weeks of vacation? I know it sounds like a lot for us who, I don't know, work a lot and we're like, wow, a day off, 14 days off, but no, no. Believe me, if you could get more, it's better that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit different for me because I work in a school, so we, get vacations off a lot. I will say those vacations are bomb, okay? And like having traveled like yeah, if you let's say we want to go to Southeast Asia for only 2 weeks, it takes like 2 days to get there. Like it takes like a
Hmm.
day there and back.
Hmm.
I wonder what it's gonna take for like the US to start adopting a lot of these like really nice benefits.
Yeah, me too. Because, we're sitting around talking about it, but like, what is it going to take to get politicians to take it seriously? And I was thinking too, like, people work a lot, and we're like, no, you shouldn't work a lot because productivity and the company's sake, stuff like that. But also at the same time, like, a lot of people don't have like the choice, like they have to work a lot because hella people are living uh paycheck by paycheck, and if they could just like get more money, well, that translates into more work hours, and they're like, well, I'm just going to do that because I there's no other job out there where I could have a like regular 40-hour work week or even less and then get paid enough to put food on the table or pay the mortgage and blah blah blah, stuff like that. So
Yeah,
there's also like a pay infrastructure that needs to be addressed if we're talking about reforming our work week.
I agree. I also think it also starts with the politicians that we elect into office. Like I really do think, you know, with upcoming millennials, Generation Zs, I really do think it's important to approach it in a more holistic way instead of what maybe our parents or our parents' generations uh, approached it back in their time, where hard work was the answer, and it's not like that, you know, decades later. So I think it's also electing the right people. It's also using our rights to voice our opinions and let it be heard. And we know, you know, 2020 protesting does a lot, and having for anything, protesting for anything can do quite a lot, and it can gain a lot of social media traction, but also can go travel up to the policy legislative level. I think combine that with policy, combine that with restructuring your pay, and combine that with just educating the public. I was just realizing that there's virtual jobs that you can do for a certain amount, like way above minimum wage, and you can pick as many hours as you want to work. So I didn't know about that. And I just saw that on social media somewhere. So there's like certain things that are still hidden from plain sight.
Yeah, I think that's like what kind of job is that?
I think it was a virtual assistant job, and a lot of these jobs, that average pay was around 16 and it can go up to like 30 plus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hella.
So it's very flexible, and you know the hours can be 20 hours, 25 hours, any hours that you are able to put in, really. And there's multiple openings that I saw.
Right. There's ways that I feel like that's very individualistic problem solving, which is great because we all need to problem solve on our own level. And hopefully in the future, um, politicians or people who could actually make the legislative change will understand or don't need to wait till the next like fucking countrywide burnout to happen before trying to change like the 40-hour work week structure. Unions were the one who did the first work week restructure a century ago. I wonder if that's on the top of their like to-do list if they want to.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Fight for 15 group. Like there's like I feel like a nationwide group that's really fighting for the minimum wage. I imagine they're also I wonder what's on their agenda, and I wonder if their agenda is to reduce the 40-hour work week.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think it comes down like to the people, right? And the unions, because having worked at a school, I saw a really cool perspective of school unions, and a lot of people don't fuck with unions because they think like, oh, you're just like you just want a pay raise for like doing nothing different, and like everyone gets a pay raise every year, like 'cause every year the teachers' salaries do increase by a certain percentage. So people argue, okay, well, how about the people who are just bad teachers and blah blah blah. There's always that narrative, like so many bad teachers. But anyway, I used to be in a classified um personnel union for non-teachers in the last school I worked at, and it was just so cool. Like you had to negotiate and bargain with the administrators, basically your worth. And because I was classified and had a bachelor's, I was able to like show them my units and get paid more. And I really really respect the president because he was like really defending us, you know. He's like, if these people speak like Spanish and they're translating like more than this percentage of the time, like they should be getting paid. Just recently, the school district that I'm subbing in actually got a retroactive pay raise because the union was fighting like, hey, we're having to work during pandemic, you're making us use our own computers, and this is really hard, and they've been piling up a lot of work. They're expecting people to like do the same amount of work and like digitize all their curriculum now for a whole year, just all this new stuff. And they were able to fight for a raise. So I just really think that's beautiful when people band together and fight for what they want.
Yeah, I feel like all this union, like labor union slander comes from like the uber wealthy because like if unions are around, that companies are forced to treat people like people and not like fucking robots to be disposed, you know? And it makes me sad to see people buy into it because unions, for the most part, just help people. And you could say like, oh, unions protect bad workers. Who cares? They protect good workers too. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck?
Uh-huh.
Like, you're probably a shitty ass worker and you still have your job. So what's up with that? So all in all, I feel like the 40-hour work week is antiquated. We could do better. At the same time, like, revising the 40-hour work week is not really in the cultural zeitgeist right now. It's like directly correlated to 40-hour work week is raising the minimum wage to like a livable wage, like $15 country. And that is kind of like the mainstream political issue at the moment that people need to accept. And once that is accepted, then I believe that we could start moving towards discussing, oh, maybe we can work only 32 hours a week instead of working 40 hours a week, even though most people work 48 hours a week on average.
I agree. I do like what you said about that productivity versus wage, because during my research, I realized even though productivity shot up by 400+% in the last, how many decades, I think, 40, 50, 60 years, the wage has not caught up. The wage gap and the productivity gap is enormous. There's still some parts of this world, this country, where people can barely even afford a 1-bedroom apartment, and they work 40 plus, 45 plus hours a week. So in my head, it's just, I don't understand the abuse that they're getting from just wanting to live in a country where they have to put in more hours at work. They're expected to put more hours in at work. Their rights, it just hits them back in the face. So yeah, I agree. I think the productivity and the wage gap is something that we really do need to close a little bit more. I think that's something that we definitely need to address first as a nation, because I don't think, there's McDonald's workers in Scandinavian countries that have a way better living than maybe, minimum wage workers here in America. And it's something that we also need to translate into our own country, because, these are people that we need in our workforce industry. They're not disposable. They're actually people we need to keep the system running. And to do that, I think we also need to view them as valuable workers and contributors to society. And in order to do that, we need to pay them a livable wage. $15 is like the minimum.
I agree.
Especially when you see some prices that have gone up over the years, I think it's very doable. And the fact that there's so many rich people in society, $15 is, I think, very doable.
I agree with what everyone says. First thing, it has to be like a cultural thing, that we all are like thinking about it, maybe after the $15 an hour has been passed. And then next is that employers really need to value their workers as people, because a lot of the times, if not most of the times, they don't. They just see a worker as a number or another person who's going to contribute to their profits. I even see it in the part-time job that I have, that I do on the weekends sometimes, is, the owner, he's a millionaire, right? And like, that's fine. He created a really good company in terms of like, he's serving a very specific need, and he got in on the market very early. He is very into his profits, right? You can tell because of how much he has paid us before. And just recently he raised his wage because somebody who was quitting typed in the group chat for everyone to see, F you, like, you don't even care about us. I at least pay these people minimum wage. And then like finally he had, increased the wage. But it's very focused on profit, and he doesn't really care if like you quit or not. Like one time I was telling him, I'm so sorry I can't work this shift because, I had to take care of my grandpa's things. He passed away. And then he just like, okay, he texted me back. Okay. Like he didn't even care about my well-being. He's like, are you okay? Nothing. And I was just like, and I knew that, and I accepted it. That's the thing. I think we all accept it, because like, what are we going to do about this millionaire who is able to control his company. And, but there is something. That one person who had like cussed him out publicly in the group chat did inspire him he felt bad, and probably other people had talked and pressured him into raising his wage. So that's how I feel about it. I feel like we should always speak up and try and work together.
Yes, definitely. Keep an eye out for your fellow workers. If you're in a position of power, would be great if you did something, because that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there something we could do about the 40-hour work week right now? Like, probably not. But if you get anything out of this, it is to support raising the minimum wage. Understand that you're just a pawn to your millionaire boss, and stay educated. Don't have an ego just because you got a fucking degree from fucking UCSD doesn't mean that you're better than anyone or deserve more pay than anyone. It just means you went to fucking UCSD or something like that. I feel like there's a fourth thing I wanted to say. Oh, and make sure you get rest.
Yes. Resting is productive. Repeat that to yourselves.
Yeah. Resting is productive.
Thank you so much, Athena, for being on our episode today.
Thank you, Athena.
Thank you for both having me on here. I'm definitely really appreciative that you took up on this topic and decided to have me on here to discuss about it more in detail with you. So thank you for sharing your afternoon with me on a Saturday.
Yeah,
we appreciate you.
We're going to wrap up today's episode here. We want to hear from you. How do you feel about the 40-hour work week? And how have your work life been affected since the pandemic started? You're going to message us at justtwoasianwomen@gmail.com, or you can comment us on Just2Asian YouTube channel, or also DM us on Instagram.
And you can find our podcast on Spotify, Anchor FM, and on YouTube, Just Two Asian Women Podcast.
And thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider sharing it to your friends. That would be awesome. And you'll hear from us again next week. Again, my name is Davi.
And I'm Carolyn. And we're Just Two Asian Women.